In this video, I am going to be printing a design and putting it on a shirt. So this is a design that I made that I thought was really cute. This is a gift for someone. And so I thought this would be a fun one. So I downloaded this image. I will have this image linked below as well, and the link for the shirt that I am putting it on as well. I have a link to that in Amazon, and then I'll have a link to my Etsy shop for this design. But so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open a Word document because I print from Word. And so I'm going to create with a blank document here, and I'm going to go up to layout, and I'm going to use landscape orientation. I'll make this a little smaller so that you can see it. I'm going to set my margins to 0, and I am going to leave it, I think, as 8.5 by 11 for now. We'll see. I might change it when I bring the image in. So now I'm going to bring my image in from this device. And so I'm going to look for it in my downloads here. And there it is. So I'm bringing that in. So the first thing that I'm going to do here in Word is I'm going to hit this icon here. This is layout options. You can do it up here too as well, but I am using the layout options here, and I'm going to hit the with text wrapping through feature because then I can move it on the page here. And then I am going to stretch this out a little bit. I'm going to bring it down just slightly. So you see my top there. And then I am going to stretch it slightly just to fill up this page here. So now the next step, I'm going to go to File and Print. And I'm going to be using an Epson EcoTank 2760. So I got to change that here, that I have converted over to Sublimation Printing by adding Sublimation ink. That's all I use that printer for, Sublimation Printing. So now you can see here that it's showing the area that's going to print. And we want to make sure that it's got this box here that is not going to print, but we want to make sure we got this back box here so that nothing is being cut off on our design. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into printer properties. I'm going to make sure I have premium presentation paper matte selected and that I have high quality selected. And then under more options, I'm going to go into image options, and I'm going to make sure I have emphasize more and emphasize thin lines here. And for sublimation, you always want to make sure that you're mirroring your image. So I'm going to make sure that I check mirror image here, and you want to make sure that you have high speed off. You want to print slow. So on some of your printers, it might say bidirectional printing or something. Take that off. You do not want that. And also you want to make sure that you're mirroring your image. So, okay, I'm going to go and print this design, and then we're going to be pressing this on a shirt. This is a sweatshirt that I purchased. I think it's so cute with these zippers on the side. And it is 90% polyester and 10% spandex. I'll have a link below for this shirt at Amazon. This is my Epson EcoTank 2760. I have been using this for almost 2 years now and have had absolutely no problems with it. I do have another Epson EcoTank on hand in case something were to happen to this one. Now I have sublimation ink in this printer, and it is only used for sublimation printing. And so I will have a link below to the ink that I use as well. But I just want to mention, do not use the Wi-Fi feature on these printers for sublimation. Be sure to connect it with a printer cable, because if your Wi-Fi lags or if you have any cutout, it will ruin your design. You'll have lines. It just will not be as well for you. And just to avoid the headaches, be sure to use a printer cable. All right, and here is my design after it is done printing. I forgot to mention that I use HTV Ront 125 sublimation paper for this project. And after it's done printing, I trim around the entire image. I don't want to take and leave a chance of having any stray ink from the printer on the edges, because if you don't trim this down, there is a chance that your paper caught some ink as it was printing on the edge of the paper, and that will show up on the shirt or on whatever you're pressing. So whenever I do sublimation, I always trim my images down. And for this project, I am also using an HTV Ront auto heat press. So I am turning that on to 385 degrees Fahrenheit to let it warm up. And I am going to be pressing this shirt for 25 seconds. This is a silicone mat that I have added to my heat press. I actually lay this silicone mat right on top of the pressing mat that came with my HTV Ront Auto Press, and I find this helps me get better results. And so I'll have the link below for this as well. I recommend this mat if you're using the HTV Ront Auto Press or any press that you're using. It's an excellent silicone mat. So here now I am getting ready to pre-press the shirt. Now you always want to pre-press your cloth to get any extra moisture out of it that may be in there, because when you press sublimation, you don't want any moisture. So I am just pre-pressing this for about 8 seconds. So you can see on the left there that I laid protective paper on top of the silicone mat. Then I put my shirt on there, and then again I lay protective paper on top before I press, because if I have any ink on my press or my pressing mat, it will pick it up on the shirt. Be sure to use protective paper and do not reuse your protective paper. So now here's the image that I've trimmed down, and as you can see, I lightly crease it in the center. I put the two ends together and I lightly crease it on the top and the bottom. That helps me to center my design on the shirt. So now I am centering it on the shirt. I'm making sure that the zipper and all of the side seams are off the edge of the press. If you leave any of those side seams, you're going to have an uneven pressure. So now I'm centering this. I am not using heat resistant tape on this project. I have used heat resistant tape and taped them in place, and I sometimes will get a mark from the tape. So I choose not to use heat resistant tape. If you want to tape your image down to keep it in place, be sure that you are using heat resistant tape. And then on the right here, you can see that I have added another piece of protective paper. Again, I have protective paper on the bottom. I have protective paper between the two layers of the shirt. And now I've laid protective paper on top of my design. Now I've also made this piece of protective paper overlap the press, because when I press this, my heat press lifts up automatically. And as it's lifting up, I hold this paper down with my hands on the side, being very careful not to touch the press, but I hold it in place so that design paper, my sublimation paper, does not move. So now when it's done pressing, I carefully lift off the protective paper, and then I very carefully lift off the design paper, the sublimation paper as well. And here is the image. Now I wanted to show you this as well. The higher polyester count that you use, the better it will absorb the ink, but it also picks up press lines. And you can see the press line here where the press came down on the shirt. And there are a couple of ways that you can get these out. And so I am going to show you how I do it. Now these press lines will not wash out. So if you think you're going to wash your shirt and then that line's going to be gone, 90% of the time it's not going to wash out. So you can take a regular iron and run circles, run it in circles around the edges of this, and it will fade those press lines out. But while my press is still hot, I will put another clean piece of um, protective paper down, and you can use any kind of protective paper that you prefer. I am using wax-free parchment paper. So do not reuse these pieces of paper. Even if it looks like it clean, it could have picked up some ink. And if you reuse it, you're going to get a ghosting mark. So I will lay my shirt down and then I'll lay a piece of protective paper on it, and then I'll just press each one of those spots for about 5 seconds, moving the shirt around, putting a clean piece of protective paper down and pressing it again, and that will take that look of that press line away. And here is the finished project of this sweatshirt, and I really like it. It turned out really well. As you can see, we've got the press marks out, and it looks really good, and it's ready to be given as a gift. Please like my video and subscribe to my channel and leave me a comment. And also look for the links below.